It was an overwhelming vote in favor of amending Sweden's constitution that will allow the country to toughen its anti-terror laws. The changes were a key demand from Türkiye for it to approve Sweden's bid to join the NATO alliance. After Russia launched its attack on Ukraine back in late February, Sweden and Finland dropped their decades of neutrality to apply to join NATO. But Türkiye, who has long accused both countries, particularly Sweden, of allowing terror groups to operate on their territory, opposed their inclusion. As a NATO member, Türkiye said it would veto the Scandinavian countries' bid to join the alliance if they didn't crack down on terror groups like the PKK. That change came on Wednesday after passing in the Swedish parliament with 278 votes. The amendment caps off pledges made by Sweden's Prime Minister Ulf Kirstersson during his meeting with President Erdogan in Ankara last week to take a firmer stance on fighting terrorism. So what will this new anti-terror law entail, and will Sweden's government be able to crack down on groups with the constitutional changes? And for more on Sweden's changes to its anti-terror laws, I'm joined by Gunilla von Hall. She is a foreign correspondent based in Geneva for the Swedish daily newspaper, and Mehmet Çelik is the editorial coordinator at Daily Sabah here in Istanbul. A warm welcome to you both, and thanks for joining me on Straight Talk. So, Mehmet, the Swedish parliament has overwhelmingly approved this constitutional amendment that would beef up the country's anti-terror laws. Was this an expected outcome, and how significant is this, you think?
I think given the remarks made by Swedish Prime Minister while he was in Turkey, I think this was an expected outcome of the voting. It is very significant in the sense that Swedish society, Swedish government has known to be a little, for the lack of a better word, tolerant to the activities of the PKK terrorist organization within its borders. Now, this is significant in the sense that now they will be able to take some steps or make some laws, perhaps, to tackle the activities of the PKK within its territory.
Yes.
For Ankara, however, this is only a step towards what Turkey demands actually from Sweden.
So you believe that all of Turkey's demands have not been met with this particular amendment?
I mean, I don't think they have been met because, first of all, President Erdogan has made it clear that Turkey would like to see some action rather than, the laws can be passed. Political rhetoric, political discourse can change against the PKK or veto terrorist organization in Sweden. However, actions will speak louder than the words, is what exactly President Erdogan actually said during the press conference.
Yes.
And I think this is what Ankara expects from Sweden now.
So, Gunilla, will Sweden be able to enforce these changes easily? I mean, could the country see a possible backlash from the PKK terror group and its sympathizers who will be affected by these changes?
It's hard to say. I mean, this was expected, as you said. It took a longer time because we have added now it is also going to be criminalization of participation in a terrorist organization. And this is new, and that's been debated a lot. But that is a very important step. Many people think it's a step forward, and it is a reasonable change and toughening of the law. What will happen now? Well, first we have to prepare a law to actually make this that can enter into force in July next year. And then what will the reactions be? There could be reactions from PKK sympathizers, yes, because it will be a tougher law. There will be a criminalization of participating in a terrorist organization, which PKK is labeled a terrorist organization. So that could also lead to more prosecutions. So this is clearly, it could be that there is reactions. It could also be that the law will be efficient in the way that we will have prosecutions when there actually are cases of terror threats, which would be good.
So would that law also cover the extradition of terrorist suspects wanted by Turkey?
Well, it's not really clear if that will cover. Probably, depending what cases there are. And it's possible that it could not cover the extraditions? That is another question. And that is, as mentioned, a key question, because the extradition is something that Turkey really wants to have. If it's 33 or 73 persons, but that is something left on the list, and that's crucial. That this law is one step forward, but the extradition, Sweden is aware, that is another issue.
So actually you hinted, Mehmet, but do you believe that Sweden's NATO bid be given the green light by Ankara in the short term? And what are the exact expectations of Ankara from Sweden?
Turkey is an essential and a key member of NATO, and it's always been, not against its enlargement. And this has been the case also with Sweden and Finland's participation and membership to NATO as well. So they're not against it. However, Turkey says that if this is a security bloc, then the members have to also be respecting the security of all the members. So this will, once it's met, once Turkey's demands are met, I think this is also a green light we could see from the press conference. If Turkey's demands are met, then there should be no problems left. I think one thing that we need to mention here is that these demands are not solely limited to PKK or YPG. I think one thing that we ignore is the veto terrorist organization, and this is significant because President Erdogan, it's not something that he usually does. He gave name of the terrorist suspects during the press conference, and he's a veto member. And I think this is something that Ankara will insist happening from the Swedish side.
So, Gunilla, if it weren't for its desire to join NATO, would Sweden still have pressed ahead to make changes to its anti-terror laws?
I think it would have happened anyway, but maybe not so fast. It's really now very much connected to the NATO application. But it's been for many years a lot of criticism against the anti-terrorist law being too weak in Sweden, and that it has been perceived by many people that Sweden has become a haven for terrorist activities, where they can plan and finance and so forth. It's just been too lax. And that's something that people have been pushing for. We have to tighten the terrorist law. So I think it would have happened, but maybe not so fast, and maybe also going so far in criminalizing participation in terrorist organizations, which is the extra step. But yes, we were on the road to this, but it took a lot of people criticizing, saying it's taking too long time, and perhaps that's why we also had some attacks in Stockholm, terrorist attacks a couple of years ago, because it's been the ground for people who have terrorist sympathies to plan their attacks and prepare their attacks in Sweden.
So, Gunilla, it seems that this amendment hasn't been covered on press as much as it was anticipated, at least for me. What do you make of that? Why is the Swedish press rather silent on this amendment?
It's a tricky thing too, because there is a debate that what Sweden has always valued very highly, to have freedom of association, freedom of expression, and so forth. And it's a sensitive issue, and some people feel like, is this going too far to have this amendment and change of the law? Will it be too easy to label people or suspect people for being terrorists? So I think that's why it hasn't been so much debated in the media. I think the other reason is that when it comes to the membership and the relations with Turkey and the demand from Turkey is the extradition is more important. This is one important piece, but we know Sweden is aware that the extradition question is the key. So that is much higher up in the media too.
So, Mehmet, could this law's approval be considered an acknowledgement from Sweden that its past anti-terror laws were ineffective?
Well, I think the move itself proves that, because you don't refine something that is working efficiently. You refine something that you find not working efficiently, effectively, and if there is a lack of laws there, or lack of action upon those laws, then you go ahead and refine those laws to make sure that they are, addressing the needs of the society or the government to establish the order. So I think this proves that. One thing that I just wanted to mention here is also that right after the Prime Minister's visit to Ankara, there was a rally in Stockholm with flags of the PKK, in the protesters' hands. I think that this tolerance is something that Ankara sees as a double standard or hypocrisy when it comes to fight against terrorism, not just only in Sweden, but also across other European capitals or European cities as well.
So, Gunilla, would you like to add something?
That is interesting. You're raising a good point, and the flag waving is something controversial. The flag waving PKK sympathizers, they were in Swedish streets, as you said, and we are aware Turkey is criticizing this. It is not sure, though, even unlikely that will be covered by the new law. Because it depends. If flag waving is only intended to show sympathy for the PKK cause, it's not a given that it will be covered. But if you have a demonstration calling on people to commit terrorist crimes or directed violence against people, then it could be covered. So again, this is up to interpretation.
I think one thing that needs to be clarified here is what is considered to be propaganda, what is considered to be support. And this is something that I think the Swedish laws will have to define, and whether or not this will be effective is something to be seen.
Yeah. Right.
So, Mehmet, does Sweden's U-turn on what it used to call freedom of speech and assembly when it came to the PKK signal that the country sees NATO membership more crucial given the threat by Russia?
I don't think we should mix the apples, with oranges here. Of course, the NATO application is something different, and also acknowledging, the establishment of a terrorist organization within your country is something different. They are actually put together in one basket to the effective, and presented as an effective state measure for their own interests. Now, I think, how this will play out with the NATO application is something that will, turn out when Ankara votes. But at the end of the day, I mean, whether or not the Swedish state is okay with terrorist activities within its border is something else compared to Russia's threat.
All right, Gunilla and Mehmet, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk.